Hey everyone, welcome to Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance. On this episode of A Quick Shot of Romance, we are reviewing Bad Liar by Lauren Rowe. This is book one in the Reed Rivers trilogy. And joining me for this episode is Carolina. Hi, Carolina.
Hey, Becky.
I wanted to get all the basics in because Carolina has big thoughts at me right now.
I let Becky convince me to do this like special edition quick shot where we're reading the whole series, but we can't read the next book until we record the episode for the book we just read.
Yes.
Yeah. I finished this book on Friday, and we're recording this on a Monday, and like I stopped and started like 3 other books because I just couldn't get into them because I really wanted to read book 2 in this series. And so I had to go and read something completely different. So I went to PNR because I needed something like in a different realm.
Different realm. So this is one of our read-along series of quick shots. We did this previously with the Perfect Gentleman series, which was a 5-book series. This time we are doing the Reed Rivers trilogy. It is a 3-book series that follows one couple, Reed and Georgina. And for the next 3 Thursdays, we will drop a quick shot about each of these books. These episodes will contain spoilers. So for this episode, it will only contain spoilers for book 1. Carolina is reading this series for the first time. I've read the series previously.
And let me also say that because I know she has a lot of books that are within the same world.
Yes.
I have only ever read Smitten.
Did you read Smitten and Swoon, or
No,
just
I didn't
Smitten?
read both of them, just Smitten. So I'm very limited in this world. So this is a new to me world for the most part.
At the time of this recording, Carolina has not yet read or started book 2. We will link the synopsis of this book on our On the Shelf show notes at buzzingaboуtromance.com. Okay, Carolina, this book was released February 22nd of 2020. Tropes are billionaire romance, instant connection, age gap, close proximity, boss employee, sort of. He's an alpha hole.
Yep.
And it's rock star adjacent.
Yep.
So if you don't like rock star romances and you aren't sure that you will like them, but I think if you read sports romances and you love like when a GM or an owner gets a book, then you should absolutely check this out. The series name is the Reed Rivers Trilogy. This is a trilogy. It must be read in order. Book 1 does not end in an HEA. And put out percentage was 94%. But the chemistry in this book is
the chemistry
fierce.
Is, oh my gosh, off. Like my Kindle was burning, was smoking.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty hot and heavy kisses in there. This couple has a lot of passion. So
and flirting, off the hook flirting. If you do audiobooks, the audiobook is narrated by Andy Arndt and Jacob Morgan, and they do a phenomenal job. And in this book, there is no third act breakup. They don't break up. They're not really together yet.
You're right. Well, that's tough to do in a trilogy because it's yeah.
Okay, so let's talk first about our hero, who this trilogy is aptly named after, Mr. Reed Rivers. He's quite the character.
He is, he's definitely an alpha hole. And I typically don't like those characters. Okay. But you know what? I either love them or I hate them. I have extreme feelings towards those characters. And the way that Lauren Rowe has written him and a lot of it has to do with the chemistry between him and Georgina. Like they are very much like, you can already see that there's an equal. He sees her, like, as he learns about her, he sees her as an equal. Like at first it's just flirting, and then it's she doesn't let, like, she pushes back. And he's also used to getting his way with everything. And
Right. He's a sought after commodity. Movie stars and musicians and models, they all want him. And he's described as a very good looking man. He's 38 in this book. She is 22. Um, but his success is hard won. Like it wasn't handed to him success. So when we start the book, he is in college and, I should content trigger warning. There is mention of a parental suicide. There's also mention of parental illness of cancer, and his mother has some mental health issues. So if those are
yes.
triggers for you, this might not be the book series for you. But when we start the book, Reed's world has fallen out for him. His father was kind of like a Bernie Madoff. He was swindling people out of their money and creating shell companies and hedge funds and hiding money. And he got caught by the government. And his dad commits suicide while in prison. And in this book, we only learn the bare basics of his dad. Like we have a conversation with the mother, and you hear, but just wait, guys. His dad's a piece of shit. Like, piece of shit.
Well, and I mean, for the parts that you know of him and learn from him, it, like, he's a piece of shit. Like
Yeah.
that's very clearly and quickly um established. What I think it also does is it gives Reed Rivers like a grit to him and a determination in his own, like, building his own empire. Because it also talks about he has gone on beyond just his record label. He has what, restaurants
And
and apartment
clubs
and
and
clubs, and he
real
truly
estate.
has an empire. um but it also creates he's also created rules for himself that go for his work and also his dating life. So from a work perspective, um, he has established that he doesn't accept unsolicited demos.
Which ends up
He,
being a problem between him and Georgina.
yep. The other thing on a personal level is that he also does not sleep with or date women, like aspiring musicians or anybody on his roster or any musician whatsoever. He will date models, he will date actresses, but anything that would potentially be in his realm, because he very clearly talks about, like, he doesn't want to say that, like, people to get the misconception that they got where they were because they had a relationship,
Well, and
or they didn't because they did or did not have a
yeah.
relationship.
Well, and he's very protective of his family. He has a half sister who's married to one of the rock stars in his label. And we only briefly get to see an alternate conversation of hers. Her book, if you like her as a character, I think her name is Violet. Violet's
Mm-hmm.
book is Rockstar with
Mm.
Dax. And that was kind of cool too. That was neat about this book is because these timelines are kind of interwoven, and there's a couple other books where these timelines are interwoven, and we haven't gotten to all of them yet, so I will not spoil them. But because of how Lauren Rowe writes, we actually are now seeing those storyline points from other books, and it's so spot on. Like the the way she pays attention to detail, like it's just so good. Um, and we meet Reed's friends in that very first epilogue of Josh and Hen. And it's really funny because in this book, Hen is married already. He's already been married. Lauren just had a new release 2 weeks ago of Hacker, which is Hen's book.
Oh.
So she's going back.
Oh.
Now, Josh's heroine's name is Kat, and that book is her club series, which is a BDSM sex club series, and it is spicy. Highly recommend. And she's actually been only writing in this world for 6 years. Today that we're recording this is her 6th-year anniversary of this series.
Wow.
Of this world that she built. So it's kind of cool. Let's talk about Georgina, because she's what I want in a heroine.
Absolutely.
Smart. Like, she's a graduate from UCLA.
She's graduating. She hasn't, when we first meet her, she hasn't graduated yet. She's like 2 weeks away from graduation.
And she is a journalism major.
Yes. She is smart. She's tenacious. She, the first time that they meet is actually across the room from each other. She's going to this speaking event, and it's really designed for music students because Reed Rivers is on the panel. She's actually going to see Cece. I don't remember her last name, but she owns magazines,
it's Rockstar Magazine, and then she owns it's called Dig Deep Magazine.
Dig Deep Magazine, which is a newer one, and Georgina wants to work at Dig Deep, so she's actually going to see Cece, but Georgina's sister is like, oh, Reed Rivers is going to be there, and her sister is a singer. So it like crosses those lines, but they have immediate, like, so you already know that she's willing to like go and seek out what she wants.
She thinks outside the box.
Yep.
She is innovative and smart, because she's going to a music school event as a journalism student. And it was
right.
And the person she wanted to see. And I think that's really great in this book. That really endears me to her, because she has this really high intense, flirty, cross the room winks and smiles and stares. And then Reed gives this speech and answer to things with the yes, yes, yes.
Well, he basically starts, like, he gives an answer, but he basically is talking to her like covertly, like not so covertly, like it within the message of what he wants to pass on to her. So it's really, really interesting. But she bartends, Georgina bartends,
but she walks away from him. Like, she could have sat around and waited in line to meet him.
Yeah.
But instead, she goes to see Cece because that's who she's there to meet.
Well, one of her previous professors makes an introduction, and so they go for coffee, and she knows, like, this is like, and she says even in the beginning, she's not looking for a relationship right now. This is about her. This is what she wants to do. She has a very specific career goal, and that's her focus for the next few years.
She's very sex forward. She's comfortable with like being friends with benefits. She is not interested in dating. She knows that she has a lot of life that she wants to live. But yes, she is a bartender to help pay the bills, because her father has had cancer, and she's still trying to help him with his bills of treatment and medicine. And the bartending is kind of the local hangout attached near campus that lots of college students happen to go to. And she walks away from this opportunity to meet Reed, to flirt with him. But he shows up at the bar.
At the bar with his friends. His friends are playing pool, and then he goes to get drinks. And he basically monopolizes her time and says, okay, I need to make drinks. Here's a tip. Make them really slow. Okay, now I need you to make 3 more drinks. Make them really slow. okay, I need you to make 10 different drinks, the slowest drinks you can possibly make them real. So he can then like just keep talking to her and they can keep like this banter. That was like, it gave me chills, like how the chemistry that was coming off the page between these two during this time, because she was flirting right back with him, and she was calling him on his game as well, like, which I think is an interesting dynamic for somebody who's used to getting what he wants. Like, and at one point he was like, okay, what time do you get off this evening, and we can go somewhere. And she's like, yeah, no, I've got to work. Like,
Yeah.
this is
Well, and I think what I like a lot about Georgina, and it kind of happens in this banter at the bar, she's not afraid to walk away. She walked away from it at the music school. And then
mhm,
Reed does some manipulation and gets his way because he's also leaving the next morning for the
mhm.
airport to go for a week to New York City for business and to see his mother and all this stuff. And so he invites her, he makes an arrangement so she can be off, and he invites her to go back to his place, which, for someone that's like Reed Rivers, that's so careful about his world, I think it says something that he's like, and we'll go back to my house.
Mhm.
And he takes her there. And as they're driving, he quickly realizes that she's hiding something, that she's going to want something from him that's more than just the hookup.
Well, and it's not just from when he's driving. It kind of starts at the bar, like, because he is so ingrained in everybody has an ulterior motive that he just needs to figure out what hers is.
Yeah. So they get to his house and he feels that something's up and he confronts her. And Georgie says, yes, I have this demo of my sister's and I want you to listen to it. Like, really listen to it. And he's angry. Like, he feels used. He's angry. And, but he says, okay, fine, I'll listen to it, but then we're going to go have sex. Or you're going to perform on me. I listen to it. Like,
Well,
he's
he
kind
starts
of
to
a
negotiate.
jackass about it.
Yeah, he really is. And it really made me proud of Georgina, like, because she has a whole internal like battle of basically, am I selling myself to help my stepsister get a chance, with Reed Rivers, and also, but I really want to have sex with him, like,
Yeah.
because the chemistry is pretty great, and I think this will be like the best sex of my life. And ultimate, she's like, no, I'm walking away, like, absolutely not.
She does. She gets in the Uber and flips him off as it drives away and is like, see you later, buddy. And I think that Reed's one of those characters that has never had anyone not give in to his whims. He's catered to. And I liked that she stood up to him. Now, I will say Georgina's sister is Alessandria, right? Alessandria
Mm-hmm.
from Smitten.
Mm-hmm.
And that book released after this book. It is a integrated timeline. So if you've read Smitten, you will, not in this book, but you will see some future things that you also read about in Smitten.
I
Uh,
know, I'm waiting for that, because
that's
there
the
was
next
one
book.
scene in Smitten where they're at the party at his house,
And he
and
screws up.
he screws up,
Yeah.
and I'm waiting for that part.
That's the next book, sister.
Yeah, I know.
So Reed goes out of his way. This is like within the week that he's gone to New York. He goes out of his way to contact Cece and say, hey, why? He does some master manipulation. I don't want to give too much away because I really want you guys to read this book. But he does some manipulation that allows basically for an opportunity for Georgina to go to work for the magazine, but keep him within her realm. And you and I kind of had a little bit of conversation. We saved it for this episode
Mm-hmm.
because he's going to kind of be her boss. And there were a couple of things that he was talking about in this book that could play to kind of an icky power dynamic,
Yep.
particularly when we start looking at things through like the Me Too lens and stuff like that. But this author was very smart in how she wrote it. She put some very important conversations and statements within the book to kind
Mm-hmm.
of cover that.
Right, because when I read the book, there's in the last couple chapters, there's an interesting dynamic. And I will also say, I feel like before we kind of get into that, I want to say that I think Reed really sees her as a potential, like a protege in certain, he sees her intelligence and her smarts, but knows that she's just young and naive. So he kind of helps her negotiate, like he teaches her with like, he nudges her to in some negotiation. And it's a really interesting scene, but there's a part where they get caught and she panics because she also wants to know, to make sure that she got this job not because she's having sex with Reed Rivers,
Right.
right? And that, in those scenes, I was like, okay, this is really interesting because this is a valid concern for, you know
Right.
in that power dynamic. And so I was like, okay, this book came out after Me Too movement, and like, so I started thinking about it, going, okay, well, he makes sure he sets the boundaries of, he doesn't sleep with anybody who's a singer because there could be that potential. He doesn't want to say somebody didn't get it, or did get it because of that. um Georgina has a full-on conversation with Cece as she accepts the job, like, hey, I'm a single woman, I'm
Right.
going to be hanging out with all of these musicians. Is it inappropriate for me if I have chemistry with somebody and I want to have sex with them? Is that inappropriate? And she gets the like blessing from her boss.
Yeah.
um and they're like there's all of these components and bits and pieces to that.
Well, and Reed in his conversation with Cece makes it very clear that he does not want to be her boss, that she will
Right.
report to Cece, and that her contact at the magazine is his PA, Owen, who is a god among men in this book. Like, Owen does everything. I will say the intern for Red Card Riot, which is the book, or which is the band that Georgina is at their opening concert. There's an intern named Amy who catches Reed and Georgina in a bit of this sticky wicket. And Amy is the heroine from the book Swoon. And
Yeah.
so
I
but I will say she ends up dating the drummer from 22 Goats, which is another band that's with the Reed Rivers label, and Dax of 22 Goats is who Reed Rivers' sister is married to. So it's all like interconnected. But Amy actually, in that book of Swoon, which we did as a group read last year in Discord, she talks about walking in on Reed and Georgina in that book. And so, like, now having read Rockstar, now having read Smitten and Swoon, like, you see all these little Easter eggs and breadcrumbs that she puts to the world. And it really just makes for that much more of a full sense, full encompassing read.
yeah. It and because I couldn't read book two until after we recorded this episode, part of me was like, okay, let me read Swoon. And I'm like, no, I need to do just Read Rivers, and then I can binge read the other books that I haven't read, like Rockstar, Swoon,
Yeah.
um, and all of them.
Okay. So that is the end of book one. It ends with them exiting the dressing room, or the green room, at the Red Card Riot concert. Reed has promised to throw a party at his house to celebrate this special edition of Rockstar magazine. And he has negotiated with Georgina that for the summer now, she's going to live with him at his house
Well, at least for the first week.
for the
It's
first
only for the
week.
first week.
For the first week. She's going to live with him for the first week. So, Carolina, you're going to book two. Now, I'm going to ask
Yes.
this question now because I know how book 2 ends.
Oh,
On a
Lord.
scale of 1 to 5, 5 like I love him, he is book boyfriend material. What number are you giving Reed Rivers at this moment? Like your love for Reed between a 1 to a 5.
I'm gonna say a 4. I like him. I think there's potential. I know he's gonna screw up. How he recovers is gonna be interesting. So like I'm not 100% on board yet because there's 2 more books to go. And I mean, how bad does he screw up and how well does he recover? I've got to leave myself some wiggle room there. But
Okay.
right now I'm intrigued. He's the kind of alpha hole that I kind of like. Also because Georgina is such a strong heroine for him. Like I like that dynamic.
Yeah.
Um, so yes,
Okay.
I give him a 4.
Reed is a 4 for Carolina at this point. I will say that when Lauren Rowe released this book, she originally had it that there were 6 weeks between books, but she ended up moving up her release. So a new book came out like every 3 weeks or every like 21 days exactly because her readers could not wait. They could not
Oh,
handle it.
I could barely wait like 3 days. I'm like chomping at the bit.
So,
So, although I'm now strategizing, going, okay, do I wait a few days and so then I can read book 2,
we
record the episode, and jump to book 3? Like,
this is why when we did Perfect Gentleman, Leah kept having me like up our record dates. Like we just had to keep recording sooner because she needed to binge it. So, we'll be back next Thursday. So you'll be able to find us with the next book, which will be Beautiful Liar, which is book 2. Carolina, thank you so much for reading the Reed Rivers trilogy, book 1.
thanks, Becky.
You're,
Thanks for finally, we're setting this up and getting me in there.
you're welcome. Until next time, everyone, happy reading.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.